Delivery men, women of Reddit, what are some of the weirdest situations you experienced while delivering packages to people's homes? My weird one is from several years ago, delivering sandwiches in the downtown of a large city. There was a nice high-rise apartment building next to the building our shop was in. A woman named Cinnamon started ordering to her penthouse apartment there almost every day. Different sandwiches, but always with one of our giant pickles. She always answered the door in a robe with linear clearly under it, and gave us exorbitant tips for literally going around the corner and up an elevator to make the delivery. The tips weren't over $20, but it was substantial enough that when her order came in we would be like, who wants cinnamon today, in order to keep things fair. The weird part is that none of us were ever invited inside, despite the message she was sending. Weird part is that none of us were ever invited inside, despite the message she was sending. At least nobody told you they were. I was delivering pizza to a condo that had locked gates that I couldn't get in. I parked on the side of the road, and when I got back in the car a security guard ran up and told me I couldn't leave. Confused, I ask why not, and he says that the tow truck is already on its way for my car. I tell him no thanks, I'll just drive it away, and drove away as he looked confused. Yeah, like I'm going to sit here and watch them tow my car. What an idiot. I used to deliver meals to elderly and infirm people from our hospital that had special medicine or just a nice hot meal they could eat instead of just junk food. One of the women I delivered to was too sick to get up out of her lazy boy chair, so I would come and set up the meal for her on her TV tray. One day I come in and she looks like she's just comatose staring at the TV. Normally she says hello and we chat a bit about my life. I set the dinner up and accidentally bump her arm, which doesn't move at all. Then I realized she was dead and stuff as a board. I verified it by checking her pulse and confirming there was no breathe. I was a lifeguard at the time and without thinking started to give her CPR. I realized something was wrong when her lips were hard and her chest cracked when I tried compressions. I puked and just hightailed it back to the hospital. She had no phone and pre-cell phone days, and told the hospital staff, no more. That is nightmare fuel. I used to deliver pizzas in a very wealthy area of Dallas. One delivery was for 5 large pizzas to this really nice house. I walked in the kitchen and set the pizzas on the table. When I looked around I noticed there were a lot of older men and women dressed up, drinking, and there was kind of a strange vibe. It felt like a swingers party. As I left, the host asked me what time I got off work, which was around 8 p.m. Then asked if I would come back and strip for $200. I said no. Delivered pizza in Washington state back around 15 years ago and had several odd experiences. Most bizarre one I can remember, I was delivering several pizzas to a house which came to a total of about $36. I walk up to the house, knock on the door, and a little kid answers the door. He hands me $40, takes the pizzas and closes the door. I stood there for a moment and just figured they were giving me the rest as a tip and the parents were too lazy to get off the couch. I'm almost back at my car and I hear, "Hey pizza guy, get back here." I turn around and see crazy looking blonde lady in the door in a towel. I walk back and she starts into a rant about how I was trying to steal money from her kid. I explained to her that I just thought they were giving me the money as a tip, and if that was an issue, they can have it back. I gave her the $4 back, and after a bit more talking she ended up giving me $2 as a tip. Not that great, but better than having a pee-off customer. Thinking all was cool, I headed back to the shop. When I get back at the shop, my friend who was managing the shop was on the phone looking a bit pee. I walk in and he gets off the phone and explains that was the customer yelling at him about my behavior. I explain what happened, and we both figure they were crazy and continue on with the day. Fast forward 20 minutes. I have another order to take and I am putting more pizzas in my car. I go to leave, but there is this big butt pickup truck in the way. I go to the driver and ask if they could move since I have pizzas to deliver. The driver responds, "Why, so you could rip more people off?" I look closer and in the passenger seat is the crazy lady, now with crazy boyfriend driving. I go back into the shop and tell my buddy, "Crazy people here to see us." My friend, being the hilarious guy he is, grabs paper and a pen and walks outside, very obviously writes down the guy's license plate and heads back inside. Then proceeds to call the cops. Shortly after that they take off, but tried to follow me most of the night, but found it hard in their oversized redneck truck and me in a little sporty pizza mobile. TL. DR. Don't deliver to crazy. Don't stick your pizza in crazy. I wasn't the one delivering, but I was the one receiving. Pizza guy, the total is $12.34. Hands pizza guy out 20. Pizza guy, so what is your change? Bear in mind I was 13 and I thought the man was trying to test my math skills, not ask for a tip. I think for a minute and answer $7.66. Pizza guy, are you sure? Me, double checks math. Yes. Pizza guy, are you sure? Me, yes I'm sure. Pizza guy, alright good night. Me, you too. After telling this story to my mom a few hours later, she told me that the man was trying to ask for a tip. The rest of the night consisted of me eating my pizza feeling really guilty. Dumbest way to ask for a tip. I'd have done exactly the same thing as you. I delivered catering orders for a summer. Had to make and box up sandwiches and take those orders to various offices around Pittsburgh. Had a fairly large order for Halliburton. When I went to make the delivery as I would any other time walking into a large corporate office building, things got weird. I walked up to the front desk and said I have a lunch catering order for insert name. The lady looks up at me as if I broke some sort of rule or social norm and picks up the phone. Putting the phone to her ear and looking through me like a target, she hits one button and says nothing into the phone. To the right, a door opens about 20 feet from me and two gentlemen in suits begin to approach me. I look back to the lady at the desk and she's hanging up the phone, still eyes fixed on me. Says Mr. Name, will be right down in a moment to sign. The two gentlemen are now on either side of me and, in a militant tone, the one demands me to place my 2 bags of boxed sandwiches on the ground and turn around, facing the desk, and to put my hands on the reception desk. The one guy began frisking me as though I was being arrested while the other began searching my bags of sandwiches. I then asked, kind of to all three, if this was standard operating procedure, but before I could finish the sentence, the guy frisking me, in the same tone as before, demanded I keep my hands on the desk and face forward. Dude checked me over, then receptionist lady tells me Mr. Name will see me now. I turn to get the bags and the 2 guys are walking off with them. As I'm watching this, I'm so confused I can't process speech. They go through the door, and another gentleman, older, walked out past them. The guy looks at me, smiles, and asks me, the boys treat you okay? Still baffled as to what exactly I just experienced, I hand over the receipt and say, yeah. He cuts me off while scribbling on the line, and in a now more serious demeanor asks where's the gratuity line. I replied there's no line for that, and if he'd like to tip, I could only take cash. Guy looks up at me, no longer smiling, and says pity, well, have a good one, and walks away. I've never had a more confusing and surreal delivery experience in all my life. I bet you would have gotten a beastly tip if there had been a gratuity line. Not a delivery story, but, while working for Cox Cable we were doing an install on an older house in Phoenix. Asked if they had more than one access to the attic, to which they said no. Well, up in the attic we go running cokes across the house when my buddy finds another attic access opening. Well, he opens it up and looks down. The room is completely sealed off and there are naked pics of children everywhere with a bunch of blankets and an old mattress. We start to freak out and get out of the attic ASAP. Well, after sending the I might die to say text to a couple friends we ask them again, are you sure you only have one attic opening? To which they replied, positive. We proceeded to let them know we found another opening. After some exploring we found that in her daughter's room behind her dresser was a sealed opening to this room off. Perhaps it's only because I worked in a construction related field before college and I have a math related degree, but stories like this have always fascinated me. I'm not sure how it's possible for someone to be so spatially unaware that they couldn't tell almost immediately after looking at both the inside and outside of an average house that some of their house is missing. I don't deliver to people's homes, but one morning I was delivering Pepsi at a CVS pharmacy and was stocking the shelves when I noticed an aisle with police tape around it and blood stains on the floor. I asked a worker and they said a man was getting chased down by his drug dealer and stabbed him like an hour before I got there. I asked a worker and they said a man was getting chased down by his drug dealer and stabbed him like an hour before I got there. Pharmacists are ruthless. On the receiving end of a pizza delivery, after about 45 minutes of waiting for my pizza, I almost call the place when my doorbell rings. I open the door to a young man in his 20s who looks kind of sweaty and nervous. I take the pizza and give him a $20. It was like a $16 pizza. He tells me he has no change. I tell him keep it. He leaves quickly. Lots of deliveries I figure. My family starts eating the pizza when the phone rings. It's the pizza place apologizing for the slow service and promises my pizza will be here in 15 minutes. I let them know I just got my pizza. It's all good. Then they tell me that their driver was robbed of his money and pizzas. The robber had delivered the pizza to me. Thoughts of what could have been done to the pizza. Special sauce made me throw it all out, and I have not ordered a pizza from Papa John's since. I really doubt the guy did anything to the pizza. He was probably just trying to make some more cash. Although, I would probably have thrown the pizza out too. Weirdest are when the consignee starts asking what they ordered. Don't know. Don't care. Then I don't want it. So I start walking back to my truck. UPS. Then their tune changes. Well, maybe it's for my husband, wife, son, daughter. Still don't care. You can accept it or refuse it. I have to go. Here comes the worst part. Let me call my to find out. So people realize, with telematics, GPS, etc., I get a ton of crap for time wasted in this fashion. I am supposed to drop, ring, and be waving bye as you get to the door and you see my tail lights. I feel the same way. Same QVC or Amazon crap you get every day. Can't stand those people. My dad was the weird one. And he was also the delivery guy. For a themed Halloween party he dressed as a woman. Hair, skirt, shoes. He was then called in to work at a pizza place. He tried to get out of it, but the manager said he didn't care what problems he had. They were swamped. So my dad ended up delivering pizzas while cross-dressing. People would answer the door after looking through the peephole and expecting a woman, only to be greeted by a hairy and semi-grizzly looking man. He said the creepiest thing was people hitting on him anyways. I once ordered a pizza from a big name pizza place. It was half an hour late, which isn't much, but the pizza place was right down the street, so I was a little irked. The delivery girl had obviously been crying. Her makeup was smeared. She was nervous and shaking. She explained she forgot the soda, so she stopped at a gas station to buy me one. But they didn't have grape soda. They only had orange soda. She handed me a small 16 ounces orange soda. I ordered a 2-liter. She said she didn't want to lose her job. She said she'd pay for the pizza herself if I didn't tell her manager. She looked like she was about to burst out crying. I said don't worry about it, paid my bill, and gave her a gigantic tip. Thank you for being nice to this girl. I used to be a delivery driver and you do occasionally forget things. I've forgotten whole salads before and it is literally so stressful because you are timed on your deliveries. Domino's sucks. Thanks for being a good human. Not so much a delivery driver, but I worked for a lawn care company. I had transferred from one branch to another and was helping on routes while mine was being decided on. It was about 0930 in a nice suburban neighborhood. I knocked on the door of a customer, and no answer. So I wait a minute then try again. Still no answer. I check the gate to the backyard with the same luck as it was locked. I go back to my truck and start writing up the sorry we missed you note when I notice that the lady of the house is now at the door. She was a bit out of breath and in a robe, so I figured I'd interrupted some quality sleeping in time. She agreed to unlock the gate so I could work. I finished up my end and went back to sweep some stray granular fertilizer off of her pool deck when I saw it. In a poolside storage box was a bottle of lube, a vibrating egg, and fairly good sized corn cob. I couldn't help but laugh. I guess my knocking went unnoticed, but checking the gate lock startled her enough to abandon her play. But in a rush she didn't close her toy box, a vibrating egg, and fairly good sized corn cob. Even adult toy boxes have a woody and buzz. One time I was delivering pizza and this woman opens the door wearing FMPs and a leather corset, and the husband is like shirtless and in leather hot pants in the background. They were catching some pizza while getting ready for a party, which to be honest, pizza seems a lot better to have post-orgy. But you know, to each their own I guess. Sounds more like it was a fetish event or BDSM party. You would be surprised at how little fricking happens at most of those parties. We normally do Chinese food before them though. Delivered pizzas to a house late one night. Some douche opens the door naked holding a cowboy hat over his junk and denies ordering pizza. I say maybe one of your friends ordered. He yells anyone order pizza. Dude walks out of the kitchen with what looked like whipped cream or shaving cream on his junk and says I think you got the wrong house. So I left. They were probably about to frick you cock block. Preface. I didn't notice the title specify packages until after I had written this whole thing out. So, I delivered late night food on a college campus with the usual party and stoner customers. One night I pull up to this house at 2 AM and from the street I can hear FUNs We Are Young playing. Not unusual. I often hear music and deliver to loud parties, wasting time trying to figure out who actually ordered food. What I thought was a party was actually two people, singing passionately along with the music, a man and a woman. I then spent a few minutes banging on the door, ringing the bell, calling the number, but with no answer. All while We Are Young played on repeat loudly enough to be heard from the street but not drown out their terrible singing. It wasn't until I banged on the window of the living room that I got their attention. The music was turned down a little bit and they answered the door. It was a couple, at least in their 40s, who were both drunk and shirtless and forgotten they had ordered food, but were nonetheless excited it had arrived. As they searched for money, the woman, thankfully, put a shirt on. The beer-bellied man, unfortunately, did not. They invited me in and offered me a beer or a shot while I waited, which I declined, patiently waiting outside. Finally they paid me and I was off without any more incident, ready for my next delivery adventure. I worked as a delivery driver for a small furniture company during college. I was delivering a futon at the Princeton University dorms, and when I got there, the television was on, and apparently a plane had just crashed into a building in New York. About halfway through setting up the futon, a second plane hit the other tower. I've been the operations manager for several delivery companies, and at my last job there was a germaphobe who we'll call Jarvis. This guy and his partner were wrapping up the delivery of a customer's order when Jarvis says, "Look, we've got to go." I'm about to crap myself. The partner tells him to go to the truck and he'll have the customer sign the paperwork and they'll be on their way. Well, as the helper comes out to the house, Jarvis is pacing by the truck, muttering something to himself. As the helper approaches, Jarvis panics, drops his pants, and starts crapping in the street. This is when the customer, who had an appointment she was late for, exited her house and made eye contact with Jarvis as he defected in front of her home. Cut to my office, the phone rings. It's the store manager where the customer purchased her mattress. "Hey, alibi breakfast. Got a second? Yeah, what's up?" Wait. What? I call Jarvis, who answers and immediately starts freaking out. Am I going to be prosecuted as a diddler since I had my pants down in public? I told him not to get ahead of himself and that I would try to talk the customer down, but he had to clean up the crime scene and fast. So the team goes to the local convenience store, buy a gallon of water, then returns to the house. Unfortunately, since they had been gone, someone had driven through the pile of excrement and smeared it all over the road. So I wasn't the delivery man, but it's a true story from the delivery world. I crap you not. I was a pizza delivery driver. One day we had a delivery to this motel in a seedy part of town, which was way out of our range, but I said I'd take it because it was an afternoon on a Tuesday, which are super slow. I get there and it's this young woman, maybe mid-20s, but naked, standing in the door. I'd forgotten her soda, so I sheepishly said I'd run to the gas station and pick it up for her. When I came back, the door was cracked and she told me to just come in. She was laying on the bed eating the pizza, still naked, and told me to come put it on the nightstand. She paid me, and I left. It was basically the start of every pizza guy porno, minus all the fun stuff. I'm a USPS carrier in Florida. This happened a few months ago. I had a package going to a house in a very nice area of our town. I needed to get a signature for delivery and the woman that answered the door looked like a P-star. Blonde hair, pumped up lips, giant fake boobs paired with pink high heels, pink ultra mini skirt and a pink tube top. She was very obviously friendly. I was polite but got out ASAP. Next day I'm delivering the same route and the same house has a package. I did not need a signature this time. When I take packages to the door, I always run, set the package at a secure spot, ring the doorbell and run back to the truck. I try to be as quick as possible. Well, I run to the door and by the time I set the package down she is opening the door. This time she is wearing nothing but a towel, and not exactly wearing as much as pressing it against her boobs. She was probably holding it this way because there was no way it could have wrapped around her. Again she was very friendly but all I did was tell her to have a good day and I sprint back to the truck. No doubt she was looking, and for the record, I am a happily married father of 3. No interest in cheating. I'm in commercial delivery, mostly. More than once I've went looking for a dollar store manager to find them shacking up with someone in a bathroom or office. You'd think the cameras won't notice. None of my business. I just announce my presence and say I'll be up front. Delivered to a house a while back and had the password for the guy's garage to just drop it off. Well, he forgot and came running out to the garage at 5 AM thinking he was getting robbed. He was donning a butcher knife and tighty whities. Tighty whities on a pitch black man are quite a sight to behold. He ended up tipping me $20 to never mention it again. You did not earn that 20. Delivered flowers for a period of about 3 years. Had one delivery to a nice wealthy neighborhood. Went to the door and rang the bell as usual. As we didn't deliver pizzas, most people didn't know flowers were arriving. So as a habit I would attempt to see if anyone was home, just looking through the door if I could without opening it, before leaving a note for a delivery. I am looking through the door looking for signs of life when I notice a door to the side that had glass panes running the length of the door that turned into perfect mirrors into an office. Inside this office was a mid-50s man watching some hardcore BDSMP. Me being the great delivery person I am at this point had already hit the doorbell. He looked up. He noticed me, then proceeded to come to the door as he pulled up his pants. I brought you flowers. Dang. All these pizza delivery stories are so much better than anything I have to offer. I've been delivering pizza for only about a month and a half. I delivered to some kid that couldn't have been any older than 13, and the place smelled terribly like pot. Not terrible smelling, just a lot of it. He could barely hand me the tip. Must have been sparking up with his parents out of town. Some other lady was just weird. I walked up and the first thing I noticed is that her bushes and all were just horribly kept, all over the place. I saw a frog hop across her porch. She answered and the first thing she says is, "Don't mind me, I'm crazy." She was cross-eyed and the house smelled of pot. I saw a bunch of cat litter in there too. But she tipped me $5 for a 3-minute drive. Be crazy all you want. I'm $5 richer. If every place smelled like weed, maybe it's you. I used to run a moving company in South Boston. We were a budget company, so most folks, in excess of 90%, did their own packing, and we just schlepped their crap from point A to B. One time this lady had a super heavy, refrigerator-sized box, in excess of 100 pounds by a good bit, that was just covered in duct tape and packing tape. As I got it through the door frame, I caught it on something metal and the box ripped apart. Out came no less than 347 corn cobs, one of which was about the dimensions of an average Boston fire hydrant, and another that was literally mounted to what appeared to be a small jackhammer, as well as a male frick doll and a disassembled Sibian. I was moving her into a really nice house in West Newton. All she said was, "Please, don't judge me." I just said, "Do you happen to have any gloves? I'll help you with this and we need not speak of it again." $1,000 tip at the end of that job, just for not being a corn cob myself. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.